Yeah, so welcome back. Hopefully you were able to join us for this morning's sessions for EcoCareers Day 2. My name is Kristy Jones. I'm the Director of Higher Education at National Wildlife Federation. I hope you had a chance to check out the Expo Hall this morning before the session. If not, you can check it out this afternoon. Each year, we like to shine a spotlight on entrepreneurs and creative professionals. And today we will be speaking with Sean Armstrong. So Sean, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it's so wonderful to be here. So I have a quick story. I was, as you guys might be aware, there we go. I was a fellow for the National Wildlife Federation back in the day, and I love getting to come back. This is 23 years later or something like that. And truthfully, the fellowship really did change my life, did set me off on a different path, was helpful. So I'm gonna, I guess, tell you a little story about entrepreneurship and how I've been making this business happen. So this is my brief overview slide, and I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail with what you see here. But basically, I spent a bunch of years in college, about 6 years in college, studying at this demonstration house. We'll tell you more. Was briefly a high school science teacher, then started working for a large developer doing affordable housing, and now I'm a consultant. So that's the brief encapsulation, and a little bit more in detail so that I can help you guys envision your own future. So this house on the right-hand side exists today. It's the oldest demonstration house in the United States. It was founded by students. The demonstration house is for sustainable living. At the time, it's called appropriate technology. It's a 1970s era phrase for what we would call sustainability today. What's appropriate? Things that can continue and be sustained. So the NWF, when I got my little fellowship, which helped me pay for college, what they were hiring me to do was to research the history of sustainability in demonstration homes. And so this one on the left, this was the Bible. They wrote a book about this house, which is the Integral Urban House down in Berkeley. And it was college students who had created this house on the left-hand side. It still exists, but it's not a demonstration house anymore. But at the time, you can see they had solar hot water panels, and they had rabbit hutches and bee boxes, and these black things here, these are homemade wind turbines. So pretty amazing. And I spent my fellowship learning about all the different kinds of sustainable technologies, be them solar panels or wind turbines or composting toilets or gray water marshes. I just went really deep, and I wrote about each of these topics, which turned out to be kind of the foundation of my career. So that was the first thing that we did, is that we transcribed about 400 pages worth of interviews with former co-directors and university staff to try to understand how the students had come to own and thrive inside of a demonstration house. So I got out of college, and I had a whole bunch of different part-time jobs. One of them was installing solar panels, and that ended up being a great move. Because when I was student teaching, I decided I'm going to be a high school teacher. Didn't work out. But when I was student teaching, I was helping these students install big solar arrays up at Arcata High School, and I discovered, like, I'm good at this. I enjoy this process of making projects happen, real things in the real world. And at the same time, when I was student teaching, I was discovering I am not really good with the administration here, because I was supporting the students in a protest that they were organizing against. There was sort of after 9/11, you know, the attack on the Twin Towers in New York City and the Pentagon, there was a lot of racism in the United States against people who they looked perhaps like the perpetrators of that attack. So just rank racism. The protests were happening at the school because there was tension. The students were like, what's going on here as we rush to war with Iraq? We don't approve of this. And I was supporting their right to protest, which meant that I almost got fired, like within a couple of weeks of getting to the high school as a student teacher. So an important juxtaposition of, like, who I am as a person and how I'm trying to support students in doing the right thing may or may not work out great with my career options. We have to think about this. So I did teach high school for a couple, 3 years as like a long-term sub and such, and found that it was underpaid, very difficult work to get, and political, which didn't work out for me because my opinions didn't necessarily align. While that was happening, I helped start another business. This business is called Thule Fog Farm. continues to exist. It was my former spouse, but now my land partner, and myself, and I helped write a business plan. And that we won a business plan contest in like 2005. We won $25,000 though. It was like a really well-paid business plan contest. And with that money, we started a business that was to try to show up how to do sustainable agriculture. So these pigs, for instance, here, these kuni that were bred by the Maori people of New Zealand, they bred a whole new kind of pig, really tiny, has those cute little piri on its neck. You can see those little wattles there. It can eat just grass, and they're super duper friendly. They don't attack you. You can see on the lower left-hand corner that this is a community-supported agriculture farm, and we often have kids and adults come out to see the farm and to understand what we're up to. So that farm is now 18 years old, that business, and we have sheep and cattle and pigs and goats, alpacas and llamas and bees, but it's a mixed meat farm, and people come to the front porch and they get a little baggie of their meats for that week. That I've come to understand, like, farming is not well-paid work. Most farmers in the United States lose about 60 cents per acre, which is why they have thousands of acres. And then they lose that money, and the USDA steps in with subsidies. The USDA Farm Bill will take them from negative 60 cents an acre to positive 20 cents an acre. And that is how farming is done in the United States. It is a money-losing operation that is subsidized by the federal government. There isn't really another way, except for itty-bitty tiny farms like ours that have no access to subsidies. So we barely make money. You know, like maybe working full time and making $12,000 to $20,000 after costs in a year. So less than minimum wage, working full time. So it's been hard. You know, we try to lower costs by getting free food. Here you see Shale's feeding the pigs bread dough from a local pie shop. So we get a lot of the food as food waste and do food diversion, which is important for reducing methane out of landfills. So radical reduction actually of methane production by feeding food to pigs. Pigs don't make methane. That's what happens, you have 4 stomachs and you're a sheep or a cow. Pigs have 1 stomach like us, and they use enzymes instead of other bacteria. Anyway, they don't fart much. They're very methane digesting. So another entrepreneurial effort. So during the Great Recession, I lost my job at Danco. And while I had been there, I'd been starting to start an affordable housing division. I guess I didn't really mention that. I apologize. So I leave the high school, starting a farm at the same time, go work for Danco. I should have a slide. And for 6 years, I'm there doing general contracting support and development support. And I learned how to do affordable housing. And actually, while I'm there, start an affordable housing company with my coworkers, but I'm the lead on that. So the Great Recession happens. All of the affordable housing projects that I got funded still haven't been built because there's no money from the federal government because of the Great Recession. So I kind of leave after 6 years, having not built anything for almost 4 or 5 years, getting funding, getting designs and such. And I go work for the city of Arcata. City of Arcata picks me up. They're like, oh, you know how to do development. And they put me in charge of homeless housing. So I helped them develop this development, which is 32 studio apartments. It's next to the on-ramp. Unfortunately, you'll find affordable housing frequently next to highways and trains. So we have these really high performance windows there that block the sound, and this lovely mural of the marble muralettes. But I only last 6 months in that job because of protesting again. So I lost my city job protesting a factory farm. The factory farm is going to be next to our farm. This is going to be our next door neighbor, and they're proposing to put 6,000 goats inside of 4 buildings, and then they were going to have 3-story tall manure bins, 3 stories tall, that they would just bulldoze all the manure, so it's 3-sided and no roof, and it's next to 2 elementary schools. It's like, this is gross. This is going to blow a bunch of poop everywhere. This isn't the way farming's supposed to happen. So we organized a protest, and they shifted their plan. But I really pissed off the mayor, who was good, close friends, and got lots of money from this goat cheese company, Cypress Grove. So she had me fired while I was working on the homeless housing. So that was still during the Great Recession. And that was pretty intense. It's 2011 and I've got two children, pardon me, got a third now. 2 children, a mortgage, a farm that doesn't make any money. And I've pretty much burnt through my relationships in Arcata development wise. What am I gonna do? I start my own company. So Michael Winkler, this is one of the things to note. This guy in the far right-hand corner, he's the world's, he was the technical lead on the world's first cell phone system. And then he worked in telecommunications in Silicon Valley. And then he's up here in Arcata and he's a fellow activist. I see him clandestinely changing incandescent light bulbs out for CFLs. You know, he lived in the apartment complex with me and I'm like, who is this guy? So he and I have been affiliated for a couple of years and he was independently wealthy. So the fact that we weren't making money in the beginning was okay with him. I just took the checks myself and, you know, managed to not lose the house. And we started a company that designed 100% solar powered affordable housing. This is an example. This is the nation's first 100% solar powered apartments of any type for anybody. In this case, it was for low income seniors. And as I try to like convey entrepreneurial thinking to you per the charge here, one of the things to think about is getting partners. It is too hard to start a business yourself. You have to do both the business finances, you have to do a lot of different kinds of paperwork, and you actually have to go out and perform the job. And most businesses fail. Like only 1 out of 4 new businesses are still there, like 5 years later. So we're an exception to the rule. And the things that I learned, one is that go get yourself a partner. Make sure if you can to have a little bit of money in the bank because starting businesses is really hard because cash flow doesn't come often or at the right time. There's been many times in the last 10 years when I've run out of money and I've had to return groceries at the grocery store or had to put money on a credit card, things like that. Entrepreneurialness is, it's risky, but no one can fire me. After having been fired a few different times just for activism, which, you know, is designed to irritate people, so, to make them change their behavior. So I've found very clearly that there's always consequences. You're always going to pay. They are going to pay too, but so are you. And you need to be ready to pay for what you get. If you want to be a principled activist, you need to have some personal resiliency. And one of the kinds of resiliency is partnership. So Michael, who wonderful, genuine human being, and brilliant and smart and all the rest, that great partner. And we, to this day, are 50-50 partners, and we've accumulated about 7 staff. And we are unusual in that we kind of make our own bed. This is something for you to think about as an entrepreneur, is that you're going to have to ideally create circumstances that allow you to grow. You can't necessarily passively ask the world to give you a job or make the things that you need. So this is an example. And from 2011, when we started, till 2019, we were kind of pariahs in the state of California because we were the only ones who were developing all electric housing. Not only, I shouldn't say that, we did 2/3 of it. And it was really just 1% of all the construction being done in California this last decade had no fossil fuels in it, 1%. Of that 1%, we were 2/3 of that 1%. So here we have activism. There's a movement afoot. People are starting to think like maybe we should do all electric construction. And I go speak at an electrification expo, and not just one, but actually like 5 of them that were being held down in the Bay Area. But this one was important. It was at Berkeley. It was standing room only. You can see here this person in checkers. This is the technical lead for the Natural Resources Defense Council, one of the largest environmental groups in the nation. And this is Pierre, and he's looking around because he's been kind of ambivalent about whether or not we should be pushing for all electric construction. And you can see like this is intense. I'm up in front of the crowd right now speaking, and you can see that, you know, people are paying attention. They took this sort of big hot room full of people, and they turned it into an actual movement. And so a half a year later, they banned gas in new construction in Berkeley. And in order for that to happen, not only had I gone down there like a 6-hour drive and gone to lots of different places and made presentations, but it also hired lawyers. I hired the state's leading lawyers for CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, basically to say, I want a legal opinion that helps cities ban gas. What are the legal ways that's possible? Because we've all been talking about it, but we don't know how. And Shoot, Mahaley, and Weinberger produced a legal opinion. I paid for it. I got a couple other partners to help me pay for it too. Building Decarbonization Coalition, Rocky Mountain Institute. In the city of Berkeley here, this is their city council. This is them in 2019 in the summer, banning gas in all new construction. It's the first time that it happened in North America. And you can see it's really people powered. See here on the left? That's a group of people waiting to speak in line. Look at that, there's like at least 20 people. And it turned out that at these city hall meetings, there was unanimous support. Even PG&E showed up and said, we agree, we cannot meet our greenhouse gas goals while continuing to burn gas. We have to shift. And now there's 55 cities, or 53 cities in 2 counties who have banned gas in California. The city of Denver has banned it. The city of New York City has banned it. The state of California has now said they're going to ban gas in buildings in 2030. So in this spirit of entrepreneurialness, I just wanted to say like that didn't happen on an accident. And it didn't happen me alone. I mean, this is just thousands and thousands of community activists who have poured out and actually influenced their own personal councils. But it's that I wanted to convey this idea to you that you might have to make the conditions that work for your business better. That can be kind of an outrageous idea. You don't do it right off the bat. But that's a classic thing that businesses do, is that they start getting involved in politics and lobbying so that their business practices work better, that they go further. And you see this in all sorts of not so great ways. But I think this is an example of very much citizen-powered, people-powered going out and saying, we want to stop using gas. And that, of course, is our consultancy. So I've started to pick up more work in various cities where affordable housing developers who I work for have no longer allowed to use gas, and they're reaching out to us because we know how. So that is great. it's like for the next 10 years of my business, I know the last 10 years are a real scrabble as being, the 1%ers of doing the crazy thing, the all electric construction, and now we are the mainstream. And so I am going to conclude with this slide here, which shows some of the 150, 170 developments that we've worked on. These are all electric, 100% solar powered developments for low-income households. Up here on the left-hand side, Samoa Coast Townhomes. This is just got finished this last year. It's up here. It's an old mill town. So it's already poor people, basically. Like, it's really old houses. They don't have central heat. People are using wood stoves still to heat their homes. And here we were able to bring in brand new apartments. They're big, nice for folks. They're for families. And they're not just for families. They're for families specifically who have been separated from their children in foster care because they were homeless. So their poverty meant they also lost access to the parents. They lost access to having their children. And Samoa Coast Townhomes is a place where these kids and these parents get to be reunited. They have housing now, so they get to live together again. Hugely touching. And it's because the solar power. It's because it's all electric. This sort of deep insight is that if you get rid of the fossil fuels and have all electric buildings, then your solar panels can power the entire utility bill. And this project, which is helping some of the most marginalized people in our society, there's no extra money. And so actually the solar array helps fund the project, the benefits, because solar doesn't cost as much as it benefits. So installing solar deeply, so we get rid of all the fossil fuels, is this core insight that we've had about how to help affordable housing get built. And you can just see here, these are projects just sort of up in my community, but housing for homeless families. Eureka Baby Bites, it's housing for homeless veterans. Same with the lodge over here. Fortuna Yarrow Village, that's just seniors, low-income families. One other one I want to mention, the Hoopa Trinity River Elder Village, the black and white in the lower left-hand corner. Activism. First of all, the state of California had not funded tribal housing ever. It funded housing every other type. They never helped out the tribes until 2015. And I was on that project. It was up here. The northern part of California has one of the highest densities of native sovereign nations in the United States. People who didn't get moved off and pushed into reservations, but instead are in their ancestral home grounds, as well as reservations. So here we have Hoopa, one of those ancestral grounds, didn't get moved. And this housing couldn't get built unless it was solar powered. That was the last about $500,000 of net benefit that they needed, was the solar power. So now we replaced a trailer home park with the same number of permanent houses that are nice, 2-bedroom houses for elders of the Yurok and Hoopa tribes. And as you see them standing there, there's no landscaping. You see how it's just gravel around them and such? That's how important the solar was to this project. They didn't even put in plants at the end because they'd run out of money. But they didn't run out of money so much that they wouldn't put in the solar, because that was the net benefit. And I feel like in my life, we've gone from when solar was not allowed to be grid tied, this house on the right-hand side, when I lived there for a year in college, it was off grid because you weren't allowed to put solar into the grid. And through slow and steady activism, like working with schools, working with communities, now it's become the building code. Solar is required in all new construction in California of all types. So, Kristy, I'm pausing there.
Hey, thank you so much for that presentation.
You're welcome.
And sharing the story of all of your diverse jobs and challenges and
Getting fired.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. I have a feeling, I hope folks listening in don't ever have to experience that, but it happens, and you have to overcome it. So, and I love these visuals. So I do have a couple of questions that have come in. So I'm not sure which order, but I think the first one I'm going to ask you is, you mentioned the partnerships, like partnering with other organizations or other individuals. So I wanted to ask you what should you look for in a partner? Like, what is the top criteria to make sure you're building a good partnership?
Okay, so my former spouse, land partners, had 2 business partnerships that both of them failed. And then I've got one that succeeded. And what I found was that the 2 ones that failed in the end, it wasn't that they didn't get along, but when they started to not want to work together, they fought. And they couldn't divide up resources. So I was just noting that my partner is a very conflict avoiding person. And so we deal with all of our disagreements gently, slowly, politely, thoughtfully. We don't want to break up. We don't want to hurt each other's feelings. And I don't agree with him on some topics. I'm more radical than he is on certain social justice topics. And so sometimes we argue, but in our partnership, we are kind as best as we can to each other. And I think that as you're looking for partners, one of the lessons to learn in life is that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. If someone shows you the first time they show you that they're kind of impatient, or they're kind of mean, or they're not taking care of what you think you need to be taken care of, note that, because that'll happen again. Pay attention in the beginning of the relationship to the signs of the things that upset you, so that you know that that'll be forever. And if you can't be at peace with that, then maybe you should be thinking about a different partner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's really, really good advice. And, my daughter, she comes home and tells me about her friends at school. And I say, you don't have to be best friends with everyone, but you need to be kind. That is important. And so you need to learn that when you're young. a teenager, and in your 20s and 30s and 40s and all the way on up there. So yeah, that's really important. All right, so I have a couple questions, and we have about 5 minutes. So I will, there's one in the chat box. The question is, can you comment on the skills you use in your work and how people can best prepare for this type of work?
Okay, so the skills in this type of work where I'm helping design apartment complexes, I have been studying how solar works and how much it costs. Most of my career is based on, I know what things cost better than most people. And that is, in construction, cost is king, as they say, or queen. It is the driver of construction, is how much the things cost. So I've set myself out as a unique person of knowing what construction costs are, and I study that intensively. So when I make recommendations, I can't have an architect who doesn't agree with doing a zero net energy project win the argument. I have to win the argument by knowing more than anyone else. It's hard, but that's how I win this intense thing of like, we're going to get rid of gas, which is a radical idea in California, and we're going to 100% solarize this building. And I need to show that it reduces construction costs to get rid of gas, and that it increases profit to bring in the solar. So while I studied literature in college a lot, I had to learn how to use spreadsheets once I got into construction. And I had to just acknowledge that it wasn't fun. You know, it's kind of unpleasant for my personality type, but I'd just do it anyway. So one of the skills is having endurance and resiliency, and that kind of like pick yourself back up kind of feeling, which, as like a tall white male with privilege my whole life, I know that that is definitely easier for me than a lot of my colleagues. I've kind of got it all. You know, I was given all that stuff. My dad thought that girls were not as cool as boys, so I got treated extra nice. Like my whole life, I've gotten a little bit extra, and I know that. So I try in my own life to give extra and give extra. So when you're thinking about like, what are the skills that you're gonna need when you go out into the business? One of the things is generosity. Because during the times when things have been really hard and stressful, a lot of the friends that I made over the years came in and helped me out and got me my first next job, or, you know, just whatever it was. So having good, strong relationships that are based upon your generosity, spirit, and kindness, which can include like sharing your baby pictures, just being a nice person, gets a lot of benefits in this world, particularly if you're doing something that's kind of edgy or new, when you're going to need the world to hold you a little bit more than normal. So
Yeah.
be willing to do the hard, ugly stuff that you don't really want to do. And then be nice as you can the whole time.
Be nice about it. Yeah, no, I see a common theme: kind and generosity, and be thoughtful in your partnerships and your relationships, and supportive.
If you're doing something hard, it's easy to go work for another company, and then you can be a brat, you know, and maybe you will get fired, or maybe you won't get fired, or maybe you will, you won't get promoted. But when you're on your own and you're completely reliant upon every relationship that you have, then manners.
Parents would be so proud. All right. Well, folks, hey, Sean, thank you so much for joining us for today, this afternoon, morning for some folks. And I just want to let folks know that our next session begins at 2 o'clock. And it is a reschedule of the keynote for Karen Williams Weaver. And this session with Sean and his presentation was recorded, and it will be posted online and shared with all participants. So again, thank you so much and have a great day.
Absolutely. Take care, y'all. Best of luck. Thank you, NWF.
Take care.